Hi, everyone. Well, it is April 15th, 2020, and this is our second show on A Shift in Time. I want to thank everybody for tuning in last week. By the end of the day, we had over 70 views that had come on to the site, and I want you to know how much I appreciate that. And for a show that nobody knew was coming on, really, and didn't know what it was about, and many people don't even know who I was to tune in, I am thrilled beyond thrilled with the numbers. I also want to thank everybody for all your emails. I love your emails. Not only do they give me an understanding of what you enjoyed, what you'd like to see next time, it also gives me an opportunity to read some of your questions that you have, and hopefully I'll get an opportunity throughout the next while to answer every single one of them. And if not, you're going to get an email back from me with the answer. Many of you, I would say probably 25 of you, asked the exact same question. And that was, how did I attain my experience in helping people transition through difficult times? And I would love to answer that question today. I think it's a great story, and it will open your understanding of who I am. And so I'm going to answer that question now. How I got involved? Well, I had been a family therapist for 12, 14 years by the time my daughter September was 16 years old. That was 25 years ago. So when September was 16, that summer, I ended up in the hospital having my gallbladder out. I had a terrible situation that the doctors finally figured out, and I got to have my gallbladder out. During the recuperation time, which the doctor told me for the first week, don't do anything except rest, walk around a little, but just let your body heal. By the 10th day, you should be doing fine, and 6 weeks later, you're going to be completely back to normal. However, I'm not someone that can just sit around. My mind is constantly buzzing and problem solving and all kinds of stuff. So one afternoon, shortly after my surgery, when I was home, I'm laying on the floor in the living room watching TV, and September comes in, and she lays down on the floor beside me, and we start talking, and I said, Cub, I cannot just sit here and do nothing. So we ended up problem solving of what we could do. We thought that we could call a church that we were involved with and see if there was somebody in the community that we could help, that we could do a kind deed for. And we just thought that would be so much fun to do. So we did. And sure enough, in our community, maybe 10 blocks away, there was a grandma that had just been diagnosed with cancer. And this grandma was raising 3 of her grandchildren. And it was more than she could handle. She needed somebody to take these 3 kids, and they were young. They were like 5, 7, and 12. She needed someone to take them during the evenings when she had to go to the hospital, and she would get her treatments, and then she'd be sick, and then a day or so later she'd be feeling better. So September and I volunteered to do this. We didn't know the family, we didn't know the grandma, so we went over, introduced ourselves, asked if we could help, shared the person's name that connected us, so because I knew that person, and of course the grandma knew that person, and one thing led to another, and sure enough, we ended up with 3 little ones in our house, 2 little ones and a preteen, and it was wonderful. And we were only doing it a couple of 3 evenings a week. It gave us something to focus on. We made sure when they came that we were playing board games, watching movies, playing tag in the backyard. It was summer. There wasn't any schedules to keep and school commitments and homework. However, as things would have it, Grandma got worse and worse, and the children spent more and more time with us until the children were living with us all week long, and they would go home and be with Grandma on the weekends, which worked out wonderful for a period of time. However, the youngest, the 5-year-old, she had a terrible time during the transition. On Sunday night, when we would pick them up and come back to our place, our 2 children still left at home, Dustin and September, were teenagers. And they would be setting up a game for all of us to play and fixing dessert while Ed and I popped over in the car and picked up the kids. And the kids would come, and the 2 oldest would come through the downstairs door, leave their stuff, run upstairs into the kitchen, checking out what was happening and absolutely digging into dessert. Whereas the youngest, the 5-year-old, could not. She came into the house and she would just stand at the door. She would stand at the door, we would close the door, and I'd say something super friendly like, "Okay, sweetie, once you get your coat hung up, come on up. We've got a game and lots of ice cream that could be melting as I'm speaking." However, it was more than this child could handle. And in very short order, I realized that she was so conflicted. She was leaving her grandma, who lived in poverty. We did not. She loved her grandma and felt loyal to her, and it felt disloyal to this little girl to come to our home and be happy. So we made it through another week, and that following weekend, September and I went out and bought a puppy. We bought a tiny little dog, and we named her Jasmine. She was completely black, and she was a Cocker Spaniel. We brought her home, and she was so tiny. However, she had a job to do, this little puppy, and that was to learn to go from our main floor down the stairs to where the front door opened. We needed to teach her that over the weekend. So when the kids came back Sunday night and the littlest one was having a problem, that puppy was going to be part of the solution. So all weekend long, my husband, Ed, he trained the puppy. And he had this puppy going down the stairs one at a time, and I swear, for the first half day, the puppy was falling from one stair to the next, the controlled fall, so she didn't fall all the way down. And Ed was there to catch her, but he enticed her with little cookie treats. And it was phenomenal to see this pup. She'd do anything for a treat. So Sunday night gets there. Dustin and September are preparing a game and ice cream and everything. Ed and I have put the puppy treats on the stairs leading downstairs. And the pup is with Dustin in September, so she's not eating those treats while we're gone. And we leave, go pick up the kids. And as usual, the older two run in the house, hang their coats up, run up the stairs, and they're already into whatever it is Dustin and September are doing. We, Ed and I, try and help the little one as usual. However, she is locked into a state where she's almost catatonic. She can't speak, she can't move, she's looking at the ground, and all these overwhelming feelings are going through her. So Ed and I go upstairs, and Ed releases the puppy at the top of the stairs. And Jasmine makes her way down, except the little girl at the bottom never notices. She doesn't notice until this tiny fur ball at her feet. And she immediately goes to her knees and picks up this puppy, and she's like, "Who are you?" She looks up to the top of the stairs, and I said, "Well, you better come on up. I think that puppy needs a drink, and you need ice cream." Well, that little girl never had a problem transitioning again, because Jasmine became our therapy dog for all the many children that came and lived with us. And there were many. We had 49 children that were not our own live with us in a 6-year period of time. To make a long story short, the Ministry of Children and Families were involved with the grandma and the 3 children. Not that we were aware of that in the beginning. However, they did notify us as grandma got sicker and sicker. And we worked with them to have a stable home for these 3 children when grandma did pass. And those children stayed with us for 5 years. And at the end of those 5 years, they moved to my best friend's house, who owned a farm with horses that they went and visited and knew for 5 years before they moved there. It was an amazing time in my whole family's life. It's one of the reasons why my children are good parents, is they learned what it took to parent children the consistency, the stability, the fun, the energy, all the details involved, because truly, without Dustin and September and Ed, I could have never pulled this off. Once the ministry found out how skilled we as a family were together, we went from having these 3 to 2 more, plus our own 2 that were still at home, so we had 7. Then 2 more joined us, because the most we ever had at any one time were 9 children in the house. I did everything on my own: shopping, school meetings, driving them to and fro. The gentleman that fixed my car, he honestly believed that I lived in the van and was driving it 24/7, because I mean, we kept it in good shape, and he was constantly doing things to it to keep the oil changed and the filters changed and whatever else that was needed, new tires, whatever. But he could see the mileage that I was putting on. The only help that we got me during that time, outside of the family helping me, was we had a gal come in every Saturday that would wash and sanitize all the floors throughout the house and the 4 bathrooms that we had. And that was such a help and a blessing, because I kept it up the rest of the time and everybody had chores and were helping. However, if somebody got sick, I didn't want it going through the whole house. So we made sure that the bathrooms were extra clean and sanitized and everything else. But otherwise, for 6 years, our family handled all 49 of those children. And we absolutely enjoyed it beyond belief. Helping 49 children move from family homes, coming to us from Children's Hospital. Some were terrified of men. So Ed wasn't the father of the house. He was Jasmine's, the dog's, dad. That's how we introduced Ed. And I would ask the kids, the new ones at night that were nervous and stuff, to help them get through it. I'd say, well, Jasmine and I are taking cookies and milk down to Jasmine's dad. Do you guys want to come and help us? And they'd carry down the cookies and stuff. And Jasmine, of course, was with us. So Jasmine was a large part of the therapy that we offered these children. We had little ones that literally tried to dig their way to China in our back garden, to those that were incredibly creative with Lego and everything else. Every kind of personality came through our home. No child that came to our home was on medication ever. And it was not that at times it wasn't needed, because it was. However, we would manipulate the situation so that the kids could be successful without medication. If and when it had still become necessary after everything that we had done, I wouldn't have stopped it, and I never did. It just so happened that we were able to cater to their needs and to empower them. And things that I found out and realized along the way are things that can help you and I through this time. One of the important things about going through a transition is to keep something normal, anything. So I had a child come to me with her favorite blanket and a stuffed animal. And many other of her things, clothes, stuff like that, right? Toys. I threw everything in the wash except her favorite stuffy and her favorite blanket. Smell is a trigger for memory. Good or bad, it is absolutely, your sense of smell does so many things more than tell you, that smells good. It triggers chemical reactions in your body, everything. And that little girl needed to keep those smells and touches around her of that blanket and of that stuffy. So I never touched it. I probably didn't wash that thing for the first 6 months that she was with us, and she dragged it everywhere. However, I was not going to destroy the smell on it. Trust me, she was clean, and I sprayed it with Lysol when she wasn't watching, where you would think would change the smell, and it did for a short period of time, but not really. And I would throw it in the dryer to kill anything that I could. Transitioning for a child, is very similar to an adult. We truly are just more complicated children. You see, kids are easier to read because you know when they're upset and you know when they're not coping. You just watch their behavior. Adults have learned to behave in a socially presentable way even when they're really upset. So I'm telling you that you are the ones who need to make a decision on what help you need and what help you ask for. Because if we as adults don't ask for it, we have such a facade on the outside that we've been taught, stiff upper lip, be responsible, don't let other people down. All the things we've been taught and the self-talk in our heads truly put us at a disadvantage of taking care of ourselves and letting other people know what we need or how we need something to happen so that we can cope better. I mentioned last week that I wake up happy, and I know that's not the norm out there. I believe lots of people do, but I don't believe everybody does. So, if in your life you're not happy, you're the only one who's going to know that. I wouldn't know it. Even your next door neighbor won't know it unless you're sitting out on your front step crying. If you're angry, people don't know that you're really unhappy. They think they've done something to upset you. So they do one of two things. in the beginning, if they like you or want to have a relationship with you, they are going to try by saying, did I do something to upset you? Or can I help with something? However, if all they get is, well, you should have done this, 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 and this, or they just get your anger, or no, I'm fine, then eventually they're going to back off. If they don't back off, it starts affecting their lives, and they're in tune enough to know that, so they back off. If you're somebody that finds yourself in that position, get help. And by getting help, that means read a book, figure it out, look it up online, try and figure out why you're not happy. If it is truly something at your core that has been with you for a long time and you can't figure it out, go talk to a professional. Now, I spent years as a therapist, and I don't generally trust therapists. I know that that is the most probably outrageous thing that someone could think that I would say. However, I believe I was and am very good at what I do. But I don't believe everybody that has initials behind their name is good at what they do. Let me share a very quick story. My daughter, September, and someone that she knew were having difficulty. So the other person went to a therapist. And at some point, it was important to both September and the other person that they would like to have the relationship be smoother than what it was. So September was invited to go to the therapist with this person. Well, and the therapist wanted to do it too. And September wanted it, the other person wanted it, so it happened. However, the therapist had a preconceived idea of who September was because of everything that the other person had told them. And so when September went in, and they were discussing things, and September said, I'll do that. The therapist said, no, you won't. You'll quit in a couple of weeks, and you won't do it. And September, at first, very calmly said, you don't know me. You don't know. Oh, yes, I do. I know people like you. And September lost it. Because September's not as tactful as I am. And in that case, she didn't need to be. She turned to the person and she said, are you trying to destroy this relationship? You don't know me at all. Why would you say that? September was raised with a therapist. She knows what to look for in someone who is truly trying to help, and someone who has a preconceived idea and they're going to carry their idea out. Many of the therapists that I know have terrible home lives. Relationships with their own children or their husbands or whatever. So I'm not lightly saying go talk to just anybody. If you take that step forward to go talk to someone and that person you feel at any point is phony, is not real, then walk away and find someone else. God knows there's enough therapists out there. But nobody deserves to go through their lives afraid, sad, and unhappy. Right now, people are questioning, and they are tense. They do have anxiety. That's normal. There is nothing wrong with you. Even if you were depressed, well, let's take a look at everything. You're not seeing your friends. You're not doing the job that you're used to. You can't go out and just go shopping because you feel like it, or go to a movie, or go visit a friend. So that can be a definite sad situation, and especially if you live on your own, or there's just the two of you and you just feel like, you know what, we need more than this. We're great for X number of hours, but we need more than this. It's okay to have those feelings, and that is totally normal, which a lot of therapists will then get hung up on, oh, you're depressed. Well, no, your depression is situational. The situation changes, so does your depression. It lifts. Chronic depression doesn't lift. And you always feel empty inside. You never feel, and you're not okay with being alone for any length of time. Years ago, my husband used to work night shift, and it took me years to get used to being by myself at night. I was terrified. Every little noise. Did that make me unusual or sick or mentally ill? No. I have an amazing imagination. So I would turn the TV on, and I'd sleep with the TV on. And that was in the day when I had a TV in my bedroom. I no longer have one in my room. I had another dog at that point. Made me feel safer. Know that really, for the most part, you're okay. If there is something really troubling you, find someone good to talk about, to talk with it about. Even now, therapists are doing it all on, what's it called? Zoom. They're doing it on Zoom, possibly FaceTime if you both have iPads and stuff. There's ways to connect. Last week I talked about getting a project going, something that would help fill your time. Well, since then, I have talked to a number of people, and I want to share with you some of the things they're doing. One person is into hydroponics, which is growing things with water and nutrients. Another gentleman has the cleanest garage I have seen in my lifetime. And because this social distancing's been going on for 3 weeks now, and his place, that's what he has spent 3 weeks doing. My own husband has rearranged his office because we hope to be traveling in early fall in our fifth wheel. We are trying to figure out how to best fit the things that we want to take with us. And so he has started downsizing what he needs to take with him so that he can still be working while we're on the road. And so his office is set up in 2 sections. The stuff on the right-hand side are things that he for sure will be bringing with him. And everything on the left-hand side at the moment is not coming with us. And he will continue to work that way for the next 3 months. And if there's something on the left that needs to come into the right, then he will pick that up, put it over on that side, and know that it's something that's coming with us. I'm doing the same thing with a number of things also. You're as limited as your imagination. And I would love to know if any of you ordered an Irma Bombeck book, because I'm going to this week. I think she's funny and hilarious, and I really, really look forward to her humor. Great shows on TV. There are hilarious shows on TV. But most of them are older, and that's okay. Check those out. This would be a wonderful time to go through your emails. Not just to get rid of the ones you don't want. However, that's a good thing to do. Go through and just purge them all of what you don't need. But write those people that you didn't have time to. See how they're doing. Don't just send a Christmas letter to catch people up. Start sending out weekly newsletters, if that's what it takes to give you a project on what you're doing, what you're watching. Tell them about this show. Tell them about your projects. If you have a plan for the future, make details about it. If you don't have a plan for the future, make one. I'll be 70 next year. I just had my birthday in March, so it's still almost a year away. Bottom line, I plan all the time for the future. You are never too old. I believe that if I'm still alive at 85 or 90, I'll be planning for the future. I've always done it, and I've enjoyed it. For me, making the plan and figuring out the details is as much fun as actually carrying out the plan and doing whatever it is that I've decided to do. Life is short. It doesn't feel like it at the moment, just like it didn't feel like it when you were a mom and had that sick babe at night and it lasted 3-4 days and you weren't getting enough sleep and everything else. It felt like an eternity to get through the teething stage for babies. But it's not. Now it's a vague memory. My grandchildren called me on Sunday, Easter. I hadn't thought of calling them. It wasn't Christmas. It wasn't, Easter bunny, that kind of thing. I hadn't thought of calling. I was busy doing other things. They called me, and it was delightful. Absolutely delightful. Surprise somebody with a phone call. Okay, each week, last week, I gave you the word of the week. And the word of the week was twit. And I told you that the definition of twit, the real definition of twit, is a pregnant guppy. And so next time you call someone that out loud or under your breath, you can kind of giggle, picturing them as a pregnant guppy. This week, I have just an awesome fact. And this one's about George Washington. Did you know that George Washington had to borrow money to go to his own inauguration to become the President of the United States? He did not have enough money to travel to the inauguration. Now, that to me sounds like a financial problem. And throughout our lives, unless you're a multimillionaire, all of us have come across financial situations that were a struggle or took time to save for or whatever. Or you're in between jobs, whatever has happened throughout our lives. And trust me, I'm sure it's happened to most of us. But you could have blown my socks off when I read that fact that George Washington had to borrow money to travel to his own inauguration. I hope that helps put things back into perspective. Money is absolutely important, don't get me wrong. We all need it. It makes the world go round. However, during this time, we have cut back on doing things just because we can't go out to a movie. We don't go out and eat. We're not spending. Anything we're spending on, we just spent a chunk on getting our fifth wheel overhauled to make sure that it's ready to travel this fall. And the reason we did it now, because there is lots of time between now and September, or now and when the border opens, is because the mechanics aren't busy. Otherwise, we wait till everything opens up. We're going to be one of 300 waiting to get in, whereas we chose the day that we took the fifth wheel in, and we chose the day we picked it up, and there you go. That is the only thing that we have spent money on during this whole time. And I love it because I've realized that I don't need all that stuff. And as Ed is simplifying things in his office so that we can take them with us when we travel, I'm simplifying my wardrobe. I'm simplifying the things in the kitchen that will be coming. The fifth wheel is new to us. This is our second fifth wheel. It's new to us, and so we haven't put anything in it except the mattress in our bedroom there. Everything else is still here at the house. And we are processing and simplifying everything that we're doing, and I believe that that's what this time is about. You want to use this time for good? Was being part of the rat race that you were in 3 weeks ago, and the debt, and everything that is incurred by being part of that rat race and wanting more and more things, really, were you happy? Or could you be happier on less doing something else? Because that's what we're looking at. I'm still going to put these shows on as long as people want me to. I'm still going to run my academy, teach the courses I teach, sell my book that I wrote last fall, that I published last fall. I'm going to still do those things because I do them all online. And I can do them from anywhere in the world, at any time. But we've changed, and we've changed our choices and opinions, and this quiet time this time that was enforced on us to stop running around, stop doing what we were doing, has given us a whole new view of what our new normal is going to be. And I challenge all of you to think about it. Because that's what this time is for. It's not to worry. Because we have no control. We have zero control over, let's talk about it, the pandemic. If there was something that I could do to change the virus, to mutate it into something that couldn't hurt people, to come up with a cure or something like that, I would be very, very busy right now. But I don't have that talent or experience or education. I cannot solve it. So for me and how many millions others, it's our turn to step back, wait, and make the changes in our own lives that we'd like to see, that this time of retreat and solitude gives us time to think about and reflect on. You don't have to be a human doing right now. That's what you were before this all started. You were a human doing. You were wrapped up, just like I was, in everything moving forward. What's my next commitment? What's the next thing I'm to do? How about what's the time schedule on this, that, and the other? Ed and I have chosen to step back from that, even once this is over. And we're practicing it right now so it becomes part of who we are. Okay, I have a recipe. But first, I need to understand how much more time I have on the video. Can somebody show me how much time I have? Okay. We've got 10 minutes left. I am going to share a recipe with you that I grew up with. Now, my mom was a baker. My mom came up with recipes because back in the day, yeah, there were cookbooks, but bakers came up with their own recipes. And my mom came up with a recipe that is called Johnny Cake. And there's a lot of Johnny Cake recipes out there. However, this one is absolutely wonderful with brunch. Now, brunch for Mother's Day would be the perfect time for this to be made for yourself, for your mom. Give it to your kids, tell them to make it with whatever else you like for brunch on Mother's Day. Tell them that you want this. You serve it hot, so it's baked that morning. And you serve it hot and make sure that there is a plate of butter on the table because everybody's going to open it and the butter's going to melt into it. Mother's Day and special occasions are not days to worry about how many calories are in things. Okay? So, this is what I want you to do. We're bringing it up on a PowerPoint. Grab a pen and paper because this is a fabulous recipe. Yes, please show the recipe. Thank you. Okay, here's my mom's recipe. And let me read it out so you have a chance to write it down. First, you get 1/4 cup of butter. And then 3/4 cup of white sugar. 2 eggs, 1 cup of flour, 3 tablespoons of baking powder. and 1 cup of milk. That are all the ingredients. Now, the directions are you need an 8x8 square pan. I want you to grease or spray the pan. In a bowl, I want you to cream the butter and sugar together. And then I want you to mix in the eggs, the 2 eggs to that. Then I want you to set that bowl aside, and in a separate bowl, I want you to combine the flour and baking powder. Then mix in the flour and the cornmeal. You know what? The cornmeal is not up on the ingredients. I'm really glad I chose to read this. It is 1 cup of cornmeal, folks, that goes with this. So you add in the flour, the cornmeal, and the milk, and the baking powder. You mix it all together. Then you pour in the eggs, sugar, and butter mixture to it, and you mix it throughout. Then you pour it in to your baking pan. Preheat your oven to 350 for approximately 25 minutes. What I want you to do is take a toothpick or something that at the end of the baking period you can put into the Johnny cake right in the center and pull it out to make sure that it is cooked all the way through. If it needs a couple of more minutes, it truly will depend on the altitude that you are at, how long it takes. Well, that is one of our favorite. We bake it at Christmas, Mother's Day, Easter, Thanksgiving morning, you name it. And if I just want to do something special for my family because I've woken up early and I have extra energy, I am going to make up Johnny cake. And trust me, it doesn't take anybody any length of time to get up and get out of bed when they smell Johnny cake and bacon cooking in the kitchen. It's like a herd of turtles. Everybody's racing for the kitchen. Thank you for joining me this week. If you have any other questions, comments, please give me a call. And be sure to share this link and to invite others to come and watch the show. See y'all next week.